Welcome to the Market Moon Lord, where we merge the matrix with the stars. I'm your host, Jason Alexander, the blue moon of Neptune, here to help you navigate through the illusions of life. What's up, everybody? I'm back once again, Jason Alexander, the blue moon of Neptune, here to help you navigate through the illusions of life. And you're watching the Market Moon Lord, where we merge the stars with the motherfucking matrix. Shout out to all the moon lords out there. You guys know why I'm excited about doing this DD for this week, because this week is a full moon week. That's right, we got a full moon on Tuesday. We know what full moons are all about. It represents climaxes, endings, and beginnings. Everything we've been working towards since the new moon could definitely climax during a full moon, okay? It's also happening in the sign of Scorpio. The moon is actually debilitated in Scorpio. Scorpios represent transformation, so please believe this full moon is going to be intense. Trust me, I have a lot more to say about this Scorpio moon that's going to be very relevant to us. But before we jump into the future, let's spend 1 minute in the past. Last week, we said it was going to be a big week. I'm pretty sure it's fair to say it was. I pretty much had every day on point. I said the only bad day we had last week was on Tuesday, and that was the only day we went red. I was hoping to get a little bit more push on Friday. But either way, guys, last week's predictions were on point. The DD was pretty amazing. I will be very fortunate to be that on point for this week. But you guys know I'm going to try. You guys know I'm going to go deep into the stars. And the week before that, I went 4 for 5, pretty much making pretty accurate predictions. So I appreciate everyone for watching those videos. If anyone missed those videos, this is the new moon video from 2 weeks ago, where I was 4 for 5, and the video I put out last week on AMC, I went 5 for 5. So you can go ahead and track my previous DD. I think it's fair to say that it's getting better. Shout out to all the motherfucking moon lords out there who have stuck with me, who have been helping me with the DD. Guys, this has been an amazing time of my astrological career. I've been doing astrology for 10 years. But never have I been in such an intense situation with this AMC stuff. And last week, when we had a little sense of that reversal, or since that new moon, and we were starting to see that the stars were lining up, and then last week they did line up very perfectly. I mean, it's just been an amazing time to put myself out there, to take chances, to push myself, and to have the moon lords out there push me to get even better DD. You guys have helped me grow. You guys have helped me learn even more about astrology. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. And yeah, it's only the beginning, guys. So we're gonna jump into this full moon week for AMC and see what we see. Okay, for the moon lords out there, you know what chart we're looking at. We're looking at the AMC chart in the moon phases. The green is the waxing moon. The purple background is the waning moon, when the moon is dying, going out, fading away. The green is when it's growing. And that's a season of growth, season of progression, okay? And so on the full moon, that would be the harvest. So everyone's probably like, hey, Jason, what do you think about this full moon? You're the full moon guy, right? Are we going to have a big move? Are we going to squeeze on the full moon that's happening April 27th, Tuesday? My answer to that is I see a big move, but do I see a squeeze? No. However, would I be surprised if we get one? Not at all. You see, we're dealing with a Scorpio moon, we're dealing with a Scorpio full moon, okay? Remember, the moon is debilitated in Scorpio. It doesn't like being in Scorpio. Scorpios represents sudden changes, sudden transformations, especially sudden changes and transformations that come out of the darkness, out of nowhere, that wasn't seen, didn't see coming, okay? This is going to be happening in our lives too, by the way, guys. There could be a sudden change, or something we suddenly get revealed to us out of the dark, or something we've been doing in the dark is suddenly revealed sometime this week, okay? Full moon energy last, 3 days before and after-ish, okay? So please believe anything could happen during a Scorpio full moon. Okay, so Scorpio is a very misunderstood sign and it can be interpreted in many different ways. So I just want to give you guys some ideas on what Scorpio means, and you guys can kind of put things together along the way. Okay, so first of all, Scorpio represents the private parts, okay, and therefore represents sex, therefore represents life, therefore represents death, therefore represents transformations, okay. Now, private parts and sex and life and death kind of takes place in a private setting, right? So Scorpio also represents privacy, and privacy comes from secrecy, okay? So Scorpio represents privacy, secrecy, things taking place indirectly in the dark, okay? And it also represents resources, especially investments, because investments is something you put something in money into, and it has a transformation. And so Scorpio is seen as an investment sign. And since something like gold or digging for treasure, it comes from the darkness, the dirt. Okay, Scorpio also represents darkness, and it represents dirt. It does represent dirt. It does represent darkness, but it also represents digging for gold and finding it. Sudden transformations of money, resources. Okay, it's also the house of the eighth, and that's the house after the seventh, obviously. And the seventh house is relationships, and fruits of those relationships are transformations, life. We create babies, right? Transformations with resources, because you join with somebody, and then the fruits of that is joint resources. Okay, so this full moon in Scorpio is very, very interesting in a lot of ways. Other things it represents is power. Okay, power comes out of Scorpio. Motive comes out of Scorpio. Power struggles and trying to have control over things comes out of Scorpio. Occultism comes out of Scorpio. Okay, and a lot of sexual hidden things come out of Scorpio too. You could say prostitution comes out of Scorpio energy, right? Someone who uses sex for resources. Okay, I say that because there's a lot of silly has friend's wife has to do this, blah blah blah. But that's very full moon Scorpio stuff. So if we hear something like that, hey, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay. But the thing about Scorpio is this fixation, especially on one's desires, and Scorpio doesn't play. Okay, we've been looking at Adam Aaron's astrology. He had a lot of Scorpio energy. We looked at Kenneth Gill's astrology, or whatever his name is, Kenneth Griffin from the owner of Citadel. He had a ton of Scorpio energy. So let's talk about what could be happening for these gentlemen, since this full moon has a lot to do with them. Seriously, about them. I'm expecting them to be big players in this next phase. In this next week, I'm expecting some potential news on these guys. But all this could be happening behind the scenes. This has a lot to do with power dynamics and loyalty. Okay, so please believe these guys have been and will be trying to pull cards with their power cards. Okay, testing people's loyalty, asking for people's loyalty. Scorpio represents occultism, so it can be groups of people doing things to manipulate and transform things behind the scenes. I mean, these guys are definitely this is their full moon. Okay, and so I pulled up their chart. Okay, and I pulled up Griffin's chart. Okay, so we have Griffin on the right, and we have Adam Aaron on the left, and the inside one is their natural chart, and the outside chart is where the current planets are. So you can see on both charts the current planets are right there, right? You can see where the sun is on both of those charts in the same place. Now, they're both going through some major transits, and they're both getting hit with a lot of Pluto stuff. We know Pluto has to do with what you're doing behind the scenes. We know Pluto has to do with power, okay? And when we look at both of their Plutos, this is where Griffin's Pluto is. They're both getting major hits. Okay. Now Adam has Pluto energy, big transits happening from both Plutos. Okay. Now this is the full moon. Another thing I want to point out about Adam's full moon is this full moon is directly hitting things in his chart. Okay. And Griffin, he's not getting any energy getting hit at all with these full moons. It's not aspecting a thing for his chart. Okay. So this tells me that there's nothing immediately potentially that's going to happen to him on this exact full moon, but his time is definitely coming. Okay. But Adam's full moon looks like there could be some serious climaxes on the actual full moon, which is on Tuesday. So that does suggest there could be something big happening with AMC as well. Okay, so I understand some people just want to get my weekly prediction, so you might want to just fast forward to that part of the video. But for the Moon Lords, I want to go a little bit deeper in this DD and look at this full moon on Adam and just learn a little bit on how to read a full moon and how to read astrology. I'm going to spend 5 minutes just going a little deeper because I want to understand what's happening for him on this full moon. You see, it's happening in the sign of Saturn, okay, and the planet of Saturn in the sign of Scorpio, okay. So that has a lot to do with how he's been constructing things behind the scenes, okay. Saturn is how we build reality. Saturn is how we structure reality. Saturn is how we judge things and how we deal with things and how we strategize with things. So trust me, he is very strategic. He is very smart, okay. He is very big on strategy. That is facts. So whatever he's been strategizing on, especially behind the scenes, it very much looks like it could be climaxing seriously around this full moon. So to further understand what this means for him, I want to go a little bit deeper into looking at his astral chart to see the aspects his Saturn's having. We can see Saturn's in the 7th degree of Scorpio, conjunct Mercury, quintile Pluto, 0 degrees. That's a really big aspect actually. Conjunct the moon, semi-sextile the sun, and sextiling the north node. So these are all positive aspects to his Saturn, okay? And the quintile is actually a pretty big aspect, especially since it's 0 degrees to Pluto. And that suggests someone who has a talent, you can see here, or a gift towards those matters, especially building towards those matters. This is Saturn. It's all about building. You can see some people even consider having a quintile aspect, especially a tight one between these type of planets, can even give you like that genius level intelligence, okay? So his Saturn is actually pretty lit, and he likes to transform things and get things done. And it's looking pretty interesting for his full moon setup with it 0 degrees on top of his Saturn, okay? So right off the bat, I'm going to say AMC is looking pretty good just on the fact that the CEO of the company's full moon is looking pretty awesome. Adam's full moon looks like there could be some serious climaxes on the actual full moon, which is on Tuesday. So that does suggest there could be something big happening with AMC as well, okay? Now, just while we're here, I do want to point out this Neptune energy they both have. When I go to Griffin, the transiting Neptune is trying his Venus 0 degrees. When I go to Adam, the transiting Neptune -2 degrees. Okay, so isn't it interesting they're both going through, we're talking about Neptune that moves like, years to move through one sign. I mean, this is rare. They're not even born in the same decade, okay? And they're going through the same transit. So what does that tell you? Okay, first of all, Neptune is dreams and illusions and, escaping reality and just having a great time. And Venus is abundance and money, okay? We know they both have a lot of money. We saw Adam just get a raise, okay? Griffin is getting money left and right, okay? But what's the difference happening here, okay? It looks like Adam just came into the fantasy. He just came into abundance, okay? But how did Griffin get there? Okay, he had to go through some oppositions to get there. He had some obstacles to get there. We're not counting the square to his rising. We don't know his rising sign. So he's dead smack in some world that he invented, but there's a lot of obstacles that came with it, and obstacles that are still building up. Okay, see how they're +2, +1? They haven't went exact yet. Okay, so when they go exact, Pluto, Neptune, what have you been doing in the dark? It will be revealed. If it was good things you were doing in the dark, it will be a good transformation. Okay, Neptune opposite Jupiter is going to give you a lot of ambition. It's going to give you a lot of over optimism with your fantasy. Okay, and so whatever you've been very optimistic about that you've been doing in the dark, that's been bringing you to some type of Venus fantasy. Okay, that's going to have a climax. That's going to be building up, and that's going to be transforming him very soon. And Neptune opposite Pluto, we looked that up in the life, is a transit that can represent losing everything, losing all your resources, losing your freedom. Okay, this could also be jail. Neptune can represent asylums and place institutions. Pluto is also power and takeovers and losing power and resources. So that is actually a not so pleasant transit if you weren't building the right karma. Okay, now when we look at Adam, it's like he just got it. He just got the free whatever. He's good. Okay, so that's looking pretty bullish for me. And then we look at Jupiter, which represents expansion, and it's opposite Pluto. Okay, so again, he has just a Pluto opposite Jupiter. But what did Griffin have? He had Jupiter opposite Neptune. Okay, it's a totally different situation. This can be expansion through what you've been doing behind the scenes in a good way. Neptune would suggest manipulation. Jupiter would suggest, as long as you're being wise, a good type of expansion energy from that. So it looks like they're both going through major transformations in their life. And it looks like for Mr. Griffin, he's definitely, if he was doing things he shouldn't be doing in the dark, it's definitely not looking good for him. Another thing I want to point out is he actually has a debilitated Saturn. And when Saturn is debilitated, Saturn is how you see reality. It's in Aries. That's why it's debilitated, because it doesn't have any balance to see it from other people's perspective. And that's why Saturn's exalted in Libra as the great balancer. Okay? So this guy has a very lopsided way of seeing things. And when you look at the ruler of his Saturn, which is Aries, okay, we look at Mars. And Mars is getting hit really bad in this chart for this full moon. So he could be getting a nasty reality check really soon here and this year. But to say the least, he is definitely working hard with this type of aspect to make sure whatever way he sees reality, it stays that way. Okay, like he's definitely working hard to keep his reality for it is. And I'm not going to lie, it looks like he's doing a decent job as of right now. It doesn't look like, it looks like he might be making compulsive moves, but it's not going necessarily bad right now. Look at Mercury. Mercury is trying the Mars, okay? Venus is trying Mars, okay? So it's interesting. It's interesting. His immediate aspects don't look that bad, but his long-term aspects that are just around the corner from going exact do look bad, okay? So that's just a little quick update on those two. Okay, so we're back on the moon phase chart. So what I want to point out is it does look good, okay? Because on the new moon, we clearly got the reversal, and we have a lot more green sticks over here than we do when we had the waning moon with a lot of these red sticks over here, okay? So it's definitely clear that we are, we did reverse on this new moon, but I was looking to definitely go higher than this full moon over here, which is around 1075 or so, right? And I was hoping to be higher than that by the full moon, okay? And then if we were higher than that, then I was going to say, hey, we're going to get a really, really big push, much higher, and maybe get as high as where this new moon was, right? But it no longer looks like that's going to happen. It more so looks like we're just going to potentially on the full moon just get higher than where we were on the new moon, which is fine. We might make it to like $11, $12 based upon, looking at it technically, right? Like I said, Scorpio is a powerful, powerful full moon, okay? So let's say we come into Monday and we actually go, way past this 1077 mark or so, right? And then maybe on the full moon, Tuesday, maybe we see an even further push. So if we get a good, decent run on Monday, I expect an even better run on Tuesday, okay? And then it may last a day, the next day, but I do expect once we hit a good rip that we're going to get a little bit of a dip. And that probably would happen around the 30th based upon the moon phases, okay? Perigee moon on the 30th. Now, that could just be when it starts stabilizing out and starts consolidating as well, okay? Now, one reason some people may say, okay, well, if we go up on the full moon, doesn't mean the next cycle, since it's waning, we're going to start going down, right? That's relevant to say, and it could be the case, okay? Once we start waning again, we start going down, or it'd be more of a colonization phase, kind of how we can call what this was, okay? Or we can go on a double run. Now, the reason to make me think that we can go even higher from this full moon to the next new moon is because it actually did 2 cycles over here. On this new moon over here, it went down till the full moon, and then the full moon to the next new moon, it went down again, okay? Now, if I go to the other last 2 cycles, we can see here, we had a new moon here. It started going up to this full moon, and on this full moon, it did a little dip, but then it went right way up on the next new moon. So it did 2 cycles of the same trend. One thing I want to bring to everyone's attention too is we definitely know the daw and the spy follows the moon phases. We've been looking at that in the past. This last time we saw that the last phase, the daw had a crazy bull run, so did the spy, and we were looking to see if they were going to have a double run on the phase, but look what happened to them. On the next phase, they didn't reverse. They just pretty much consolidated, okay? Which tells me I think it's about to go up again, okay? And I think that's good for AMC's case. If we pull up the SPY, you can see that on their, so far since their new moon, it has been basically consolidating, okay? So this is the arrow we did before. It didn't go down, it consolidated, so it didn't reverse, right? So I think it's about to go up. I think the whole market, based on the moon phases, will go up. Another thing I want to show you guys with AMC is let's do some technical analysis on it. Okay, so this is where we are right now, okay? And on that last new moon, let's reflect on where we were before, okay? We're right here, and we were saying on that next moon we're going to get a reversal because it looked like that technically, right? And we're hoping on the MACD that it was going to go ahead and pop up then, right? But it didn't, okay? But look at what it's doing now. All right, look at where it's about to cross. Probably Monday and Tuesday on the full moon, okay? We can't make this stuff up, guys. This is looking pretty bullish, okay? And the last time this has happened, it's been way over here, way in the beginning of March, the last time we crossed the MAC, right? Well, end of February for that matter. So I'm thinking this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of a major bull run of AMC when we pull up the technicals. Let's jump into the astrological chart for AMC and look at it day by day basis, and let's see what we see. Okay, we are looking at Monday at 9:30 a.m. market open for AMC IPO 9:30 date. First thing I want to point out is we're going to talk about the moon. The moon plays a big role in AMC. Whenever the moon's getting some interesting aspects, we can usually see some decent price movement. But what I want to talk about is the moon is in the late degrees of Libra, okay? We know Libra is the artist sign. It rules the celebrity, okay? So this is really good for movie theaters. I know Mortal Kombat just came out and we had good numbers for that. I expect some good numbers going forward this week as far as the movie theater, as far as the people going to the theater. I mean, Libra is the sign of relationships and having fun with relationships and being entertained with relationships. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some celebrity talk on Monday as well with this type of energy. Now, when I look at the moon, it is aspecting Venus square 0 degrees. Okay, so that's exact. It's got a sextile to the sun, and it's got a square to the ascendant. Now, I did take a look to see if we've had this transit before that made any big price moves that I can see patterns on. There aren't any patterns or any consistency with this one, but I can say on February 3rd, when the moon was exactly right here, squaring Venus, making a sextile to the sun, it did get us a 14% plus day. Now, to get further information about this day, I definitely want to look at the sun because the sun has a lot to do with the company's reputation. When I go to the sun, it's making very awesome aspects still to Jupiter, 0 degrees. That's very, very expansive energy. Okay, so between the moon, we know the moon creates volatility with AMC when it gets decent aspect, and we know Jupiter can definitely expand situations. The sun is looking pretty interesting for tomorrow's trading day, and it looks like a lot of attention will be on AMC. And this to me looks like a very positive buying pressure for tomorrow. Okay, another really big aspect that's happening tomorrow is Mars, for the first time since this whole shebang, will be in the sign of Cancer. And this hasn't been there since 2019, all the way back in like May. So this is a big deal, especially since AMC's moon and Jupiter are in the sign of Cancer, and that's a big deal because the moon belongs to Cancer, Jupiter belongs to Cancer, so the sign of Cancer is a big deal for AMC. Now, Mars isn't particularly strong at Cancer. It is debilitated for the astrology people who know about that, right? But that's irrelevant, especially since Mars in Cancer is actually really good at working behind the scenes, and we know that's kind of necessary right now with all the things that are happening. And when I look at this Mars, it actually trines Neptune, which is about manipulation, right? Neptune can be about deception, and Neptune is creativity. It's the spiritual world. It's where Hollywood came from, because Hollywood came from someone going into their imagination and come out with some story in their head and made an illusion on the big screen. That's Neptune. Mars trining Neptune. It's time to play in those worlds. It's time to take action in those worlds. Mars is a fighter. Okay, so I expect AMC to be fighting to beat this manipulation behind the scenes as a company. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out some more things about the manipulation and what's been happening behind the scenes. And this right here, since AMC has a lot of water energy, a lot of Cancer energies, Mars is like energy, period. There's going to be a lot of emotional energy for AMC this week. There's going to be a lot of buying pressure or just pressure on the stock for AMC, but this looks like a positive transit. To get more information, I do want to look at the actual transiting Neptune, and if you look at the transiting Neptune, it's 0 degrees trine the midheaven. The midheaven is the highest point of the sky for a chart. It's where the company is seen. It's the brightest part of the company's reputation. So the midheaven is an important sector for anyone's chart, especially a stock. Okay, we've been talking about this Neptune getting squared by Mercury, and we've been talking about how that's like loosening up. So the worst manipulation to me is going to be over. However, we're still dealing with it, but the worst is over, and we're actually starting to find out about it, and it looks like it's going to start working towards our favor because the Neptune is trying the midheaven, the career sector, and it looks like we're going to be dissolving all the manipulation. It looks like the manipulation is going to start really coming to a stop with this. At the very least, we're going to start beating it. So this definitely looks pretty awesome. Just so we can get past a lot of the BS that's been happening. I think this week is a week where things start really looking more like they should. Okay, before we go on to Tuesday and cover that full moon, I do want to talk about what's happening on Monday still on AMC. The moon is, first of all, in the 9th house of legal matters, okay? And so when I look at all this Neptune energy and Mars energy involved with this, to me, I'm almost thinking like, and since the moon is in the 9th house of legal matters, we could be actually fighting something, and behind the scenes that's just going to be popping up as far as something that we dealt with legally, okay? And I know there's some actual rules that could be coming into effect this week, and yeah, that could definitely emphasize what I'm seeing here. Now, another thing about the ninth house is it's considered the most lucky house of the zodiac. Because it's very expansive. It's Jupiter, okay? And the house is known as a publishing house as well. And this house is known as other cultures, different lands, because this house is so expansive. It represents like even lands that are foreign to us, okay? So I expect maybe some legal situations happening. I'm expecting some luck happening with AMC this week. And I'm expecting some interesting news revolving things happening in other countries. Maybe like China had like awesome AMC numbers and stuff like that. But another thing I want to point out to you guys is what's actually happening in the sky on Monday as a whole in general. Okay, so I have the chart just for the world. This is based upon the New York time zone location. We're looking at 11:30 a.m. for Monday. Look at the moon at the 29th degree, the most powerful degree of the sign, the last degree of a sign. Look at all the aspects the moon's making, okay? It's getting hit by Pluto. It's getting hit by Jupiter. It's getting opposed by the sun. It's getting hit by Mars over here, okay? This is very volatile, if you ask me, with the moon all by itself. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to when the moon hits 0 degrees Scorpio, and we can see that there's like a little bit of a different theme, okay? There's less of those little light blue lines, a little bit less red lines with the moon, and we're looking at what you would call a grand trine. So if you look in the middle, we see how we have this little blue triangle. This is a big deal. This is considered a grand trine. And now that I'm looking at it, it's almost making a kite. If you see how it has this opposition and then the triangle and then two little lines right here, that's almost considered a kite, but it's not actually happening because Mars is happening with the midheaven. I'm not going to count that, okay? If it was happening with the sun, I would say wow. But the sun doesn't have a little blue line involved in that. It's the midheaven. But, however, we're still getting a grand trine. Now, typically a trine will happen in one sign, so you can say grand water trine, grand earth trine. But this is happening with two water signs, and then Jupiter is in an air sign still, okay? But to me, this is very, very, very volatile. Jupiter is very expansive energy. Mars is very quick-moving energy. Moon going into Scorpio is sudden changes, ups and downs. The sun being opposing this energy is Taurus, and the sun's stuck and stubborn in Taurus, okay? So certain things that have been stuck or certain things that people have been stubborn on, I'm expecting some climax energy on that type of stuff this week. Now I have Tuesday pulled up for the Modane, the world chart, just to look at this full moon. Look at this full moon, guys. The moon is all by itself, getting hit with so many things. Look at that, okay? So clearly, Tuesday is going to be eventful for the world. The moon is debilitated in a very emotional sign of Scorpio, sudden changes of Scorpio. You can see that Mars is heavily involved in this situation. It's also debilitated in Cancer, okay? Venus is at home in Taurus, okay? Look at all this energy over here, just opposing the moon by herself. And then the sun is with Uranus. This is very volatile. Even Mercury is getting hit with a lot of aspects. So I'm expecting just a lot of just news in the market in general this week. And there's a lot of obstacles and opportunities. I see a lot of positive blue lines. Jupiter's getting some positive stuff happening here as well. The Quinticon is definitely looking like a volatile aspect. The semi-sextile to Pluto is also very volatile. And Mars trine Jupiter is also very volatile, but this all looks pretty positive. So, but there are a lot of red lines too at the same time. Let's look at some of them. Saturn is getting squared by the moon. That's a suppression energy. That's a depressing energy. Square Venus, same thing. Square Uranus, that could be volatile. Square Mercury, that can also, Saturn doesn't look too good up here. Okay, Saturn's getting hit with a lot. So I'm definitely expecting some blood in the water for sure tomorrow. But I'm also expecting some very or Tuesday. We're looking at Tuesday's full moon, but I'm also expecting some positive stuff for Tuesday as well in the overall market. So a little bit of both. So there's going to be extreme good volatility and extreme bad volatility in certain sectors for sure. We currently have Tuesday pulled up, and we're looking at pretty much midnight because that's when the full moon happens. And I have to look at exactly what happened on AMC's chart on that full moon. And the very, very sexiest thing that I see that happens is the moon will be trine AMC's moon. Okay. So we have a full moon that's in a very positive aspect to AMC's moon. I mean, like the best type of aspect. So to me, this full moon has a lot to do with AMC. Another thing that it's doing is making a full moon in the ninth house where the north node is. That's the destiny point of someone's chart, the north node. Okay, so this is like a karmic full moon for AMC. It's also happening in the ninth house of luck. Okay, so the fact that we're having a full moon, especially in Scorpio, that's hitting AMC's moon like that looks pretty bullish to me. But okay, let's go to 9 o'clock or 9:30 a.m. We currently have Tuesday pulled up, and we're looking at pretty much midnight because that's when the full moon happens. And I have to look at exactly what happened on AMC's chart on that full moon. And the very, very sexiest thing that I see that happens is the moon will be trine AMC's moon. Okay, so we have a full moon that's in a very positive aspect to AMC's moon. I mean, like the best type of aspect. So to me, this full moon has a lot to do with AMC. Another thing that it's doing is making a full moon in the ninth house where the north node is. That's the destiny point of someone's chart, the north node. Okay, so this is like a karmic full moon for AMC. It's also happening in the ninth house of luck. Okay, so the fact that we're having a full moon, especially in Scorpio, that's hitting AMC's moon like that looks pretty bullish to me. But okay, let's go to 9 o'clock or 9:30 a.m. We did have some shift of energy from Monday to Tuesday that I'm going to talk about. Nothing that I'm seeing on the chart is anything I can go back in the past and see a pattern on. We're making some really big aspects, but again, nothing I can see from the past to verify anything. So I'm kind of flying manually, I guess you could say, which is okay. You know, I'm totally comfortable reading the stars without some past influence to go by. I got this. I am the blue moon of Neptune. So anyway, the first thing I want to do is I drew this little line across from the sun to the north node, the destiny point of a chart. Okay, it doesn't give us the line, so I have to draw it, but that's the exact opposition. Okay, so that's a big deal. That's like destiny energy, and the moon is in the same sign. Okay, so big action this week just for that reason. And look at pretty much all these planets are opposite of the destiny point, opposite of the career point. Okay, so this is really about them making some serious changes, and they're getting attention for it based on that. Okay, now a big thing that took place here is what's happening with Saturn and what's happening with our guy Mercury. We know Mercury has a lot to do with news, and we know Saturn can be stabilizing energy, but it can also be the opposite effect where it can bring things down. However, Saturn's in Scorpio over here, and we looked at Aaron Saturn too, right? Adam Aaron Saturn, and it's also in Scorpio. So they're both AMC and Adam Aaron is getting some full moon action on the Saturn. And to me, this looks, since they're both looking like positive charts overall, to me, this is that milestone where Saturn actually gives you positive results, and it's like, okay, you've been working hard, now we can go to the next phase. Okay, remember, oppositions are obstacles that turn into opportunities. Okay, and then to get further information on what's happening with Mercury down here, it's getting a sextile to the most lucky planet of the zodiac, the most expansive planet of the zodiac, the only planet in AMC's chart that's exalted, Mr. Jupiter over here. We look at Jupiter, and Jupiter's sextiling both Mercury and Venus. This is extremely good news for news. Okay, Mercury has to do with news. Jupiter has to do with expanding. Venus has to do with the aesthetics and things looking beautiful, and the artist. Okay, has a lot to do with Hollywood. So I'm expecting some really awesome news actually around this full moon, just based on what's happening with Mercury right here, what's happening with Jupiter right here. It's full moon energy, very climax energy, for just good news, good expansion on the company. Potentially more doors could be opening. We're obviously going to be getting good numbers for the theater. We could be hearing from the CEO. We could be beating some of that manipulation energy that could finally be passing, because this is all taking place in Scorpio. Don't get it twisted. Jupiter in Cancer is also can deal with that type of energy as well. Okay, so things are finding out, getting revealed, and it looks like we're really getting released to the next chapter, next phase of this whole situation. What I want to leave you with this full moon before I go on to the rest of the week is this full moon looks awesome. It's happening in Scorpio. I mean, it can be violent price action. If there is a violent move or a sudden move that no one saw coming, it would definitely be on this type of full moon. This chart that we're looking at today for Tuesday does look volatile. How volatile does it look? I can't really tell you. A lot of the big, a lot of the big time transits that are still happening with the major players, the outer planets, they're still in effect. But they were in effect last week too, and they're still in effect this week. For instance, transiting Uranus is still sextiling the Moon 0 degrees. Is still trine Pluto 0 degrees. Transiting Jupiter is still sextiling the Sun. I'm waiting for this Pluto conjunction to go exact with Venus. That's going to be amazing, but that's going to take a long time. Okay. Then we also have the Neptune trine the midheaven 0 degrees for Neptune, transiting Neptune. So there's a lot of big time players making big time aspects. They started last week and are still happening this week. They're still going exact. They're still building up. Some of them are exact now. So they could play out at any moment, but it's definitely safe to say that this is going to create volatility, and we could see some serious price action because of all these reasons this week. Okay, so I still have Tuesday pulled up, but I want you guys to look at the chart and see what changes. I want you guys to see what happens with the moon. It goes over the midheaven, and it goes into the next sign of Sagittarius. And then I want you guys to take note that the sun right here isn't making any aspects on Tuesday. And look what happens the next day. Now the sun is making two pretty big aspects. It's sextiling the moon and is trine Pluto. Okay. And now the moon went out of Scorpio actually it's in the last degrees of Scorpio. Okay. So it's a powerful day. It went over the midheaven, and now it's making a sextile to Venus 0 degrees and a sextile to the ascendant 1 degree. Now, I did go in the past over the last year to look at some patterns on this aspect, and there are any, but there's no denying that this is a powerful aspect, okay? And we know the moon has a lot to do with AMC, and it can move the stock. And I think the fact that the moon is hitting Venus, which is a very good sign for AMC, very good energy for the movie theater. And then the moon also is in a Venus sign of Taurus, and it's hitting the moon and Pluto transformations. The moon is gravity energy towards service-based type companies. This is looking very bullish as well. I was kind of concerned that maybe after Tuesday we jump into Wednesday and we get a dip after a rip, but this would suggest forward momentum still on Tuesday, if you ask me. Now, another thing that also happened was Saturn did get another opposition to Venus. Okay, so again, oppositions can play out either way. It's opportunity or obstacle. Okay, it's really hard to say, but I can say Venus is at home very strong here. So this could be a milestone, a completion, a new phase. And Venus is also getting a very next sextile 0 degrees to Jupiter, which is very lucky. So me, I'm definitely, and the same thing with Mercury getting a sextile to Jupiter. So with me, I'm considering this Saturn opposition as a very lucky energy, or not lucky, but a very milestone completion, next chapter energy. And it's also taking place in Scorpio, so still some news could be happening about the manipulation and what's happening behind the scenes this week. But yeah, I'm actually thinking Wednesday is still looking pretty positive for good price action for the positive. Okay? All right, so let's go to Thursday. The first thing that sticks up to me is this Mars square Mars for Thursday. That isn't ideal. That to me is more of a cutting energy, if anything. But again, the thing about Mars is it just creates energy, okay? And the whole picture for the most part is still looking positive. And then when I look at the sun is now making a 0 degree sextile to the moon, which is actually really positive. Now, Mercury is no longer sextiling the Jupiter like Venus was yesterday. Now Mercury is only opposite the midheaven and Saturn. So Thursday looks like there's going to be some type of news happening that's going to potentially create some volatility. I could put AMC in some type of fight, Mars square Mars. But the sun sextiling the moon does suggest a positive outcome. But we could see a little bit of, I wouldn't be surprised if any day we saw some red if it was on Thursday. However, everything still looks pretty positive overall. And the sun is conjunct Uranus. So if anything, we could see like extremely big dips on Thursday just to recover the same day. So I'm going to go 6 hours forward just to see if we see anything different. Okay, so the moon still isn't making any aspects towards the closing hour. So I'm not going to say anything really changed. Let me go 1 hour into the close. Okay, so it looks like after market, and I'm just going to go to 7:30 just for kicks and giggles. We do have the moon conjunct Mercury. And hey, whenever Mercury gets aspects in this chart, especially with the moon, it's pretty volatile. I mean, we usually see something big happening. I wouldn't call that volatile, but we usually get some type of news. But typically we do get some green when there's positive aspects with Mercury. Okay, so if there is some dips in the regular trading hours, after hours looks really, really positive for AMC on Thursday. Okay, so I'm going to look into this conjunction with the moon, which is going to bleed into Friday, and see what's good. It looks like on Friday, the moon completely moved away from the Mercury right here, and we're looking at 9:30 a.m. And now the moon's all the way in the 20th degree of Sagittarius, and it's now conjunct the sun. And it will be 0 degrees at some point that day. So that's a very significant period. Definitely one I had to go back and see if we can see any trends and patterns. And I definitely saw some stuff that I want to show you guys. Okay, so this is it right here. I labeled it on our chart. The Moon Lords knows what's going on here. Okay, so we're going to backtrace every time the moon was conjunct the sun like that when it was 28 degrees in Sag, which is going to be happening on the 30th of April. That's actually the perigee moon. Okay, so you guys know this day is looking more and more significant. So the last time it happened was in February 8th, because the other times it happened was over the weekend. That day was -9. Time before that, we had a positive 2.80%. The time before that, we had negative 18%. The time before that, we had negative 4%. The time before that, we had negative 3%. The time before that, we had negative 8%. The time before that, we had positive 16%. The time before that, we had negative 2%. The time before that, positive 13%. The time before that, positive 1.4, negative 1.3. 0% plus 7%. So it's fair to say that Friday is going to be volatile based on those aspects. Just based on that aspect, and it's almost neutral on which way it's going to go. Okay, but let's say we start ripping into this full moon, and then we rip a couple of days after the full moon. It would make sense to get a huge dip on the 30th on the perigee, okay, or a very stabilizing energy. But since it is happening with that aspect, it doesn't look stabilizing, it looks volatile. So maybe it could be a volatile move up or down based upon the last results that we see from this aspect. So I go back to the chart to get more information for Friday. And we still have the Mars square Mars. So there's no doubt that Friday looks volatile. Another very, very volatile situation is the fact that the Sun is conjunct Uranus. That's a volatile situation, period. Uranus has a lot to do with trends, society, stocks that have to do with technology or futuristic stocks, inventions, mad scientist-like type energy. The Sun is companies' reputation, especially the CEO managements. So this looks very interesting for the market as a whole. This is definitely going to make the market volatile on Friday as a whole. There could be some like breakthrough energies here too, some sudden changes and thrusts into the future. For AMC, I actually like this aspect because it's making a 0 degree sextile with the Sun and the Moon, and a 0 degree trine with the Sun and the Pluto. That's like transformation energy, and keep in mind Uranus is doing the same exact thing up there. This is very transformative energy, and it's like the Sun hit that degree on Friday and triggered all this stuff, making some type of massive energy almost with the Mars square Mars. So there's this can go so many ways, you know what I mean? We even have a Venus opposite Saturn, which is kind of scary, but the Jupiter involved suggests that this is a good situation. So Friday is going to be volatile, and it can definitely go either way based on past, events. But to me, if this was my personal chart, I would say this day is more favorable, mainly because Jupiter's involved with Venus. The Sun just triggered this very good situation with Uranus. Now, you see, Uranus destroys something to build something new. Okay, so I would look at this and I would say, okay, something could be getting destroyed today, something I have to take action on. But it looks positive because it looks like it's something like I'm getting rid of the old and I'm stepping into a new beginning almost. So Friday looks very exciting. I'm actually very curious on what happens on Friday. Time will tell, but I think I should wrap it up here. I'm not going to say if it's going to be green or bloody, but I can say it looks volatile. And I could say definitely long term. And when I say long term at AMC, like all this stuff is right around the corner. Everything looks amazing, to be honest with you, for the most part. I don't really care for having Saturn getting involved in these situations, but this is still an opportunity. Saturn is in Scorpio, and we saw that matches up with Adam Saturn. So maybe something. I'm really looking for some sudden changes in some structures of the company, or something they were working on in the background. Really looks like climax energy here. Like we're going to find something out, or there's going to be sudden change of structure. Okay, maybe there's suddenly doors getting open or suddenly doors being closed. Maybe some people are going to be getting fired or hired. I'm expecting some big action with the CEOs. Period. This next phase of the moon. Or this week. Okay, so time will tell. I'm excited. Overall, I'm pretty sure we're going to keep going up. I'm Jason Alexander, the Blue Moon and Neptune, here to help you navigate through the illusions of life. You're watching the Market Moon Lord, where we merge the matrix with the stars. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Share the video. I appreciate all the Moon Lords out there. I'm extremely excited for the full moon. We might go live. Until next time, peace.
Jason Alexander, the Blue Moon of Neptune.